Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has presented his plans for the new administration, making an impassioned plea to the National Treasury to increase the province's allocation. Let's touch base with our reporter Nasiphi Same. She joins us live from Cape Town with those details. Nasiphi, great to see you. Good afternoon. And what does Alan Winde say is the Western Cape's fair share of the budget?
Well, Michelle, we heard from the Premier at the opening of the provincial legislature today, where he addressed not only the members of Parliament, but also residents of the Western Cape. And he, in his terms, saying that he is setting the tone for the 7th administration and the Western Cape government as far as priorities is concerned, but also that impassioned plea to national government when it comes to the budget allocation. We heard from the Premier that they will be looking at a number of areas as so far as priorities are concerned, and this is what the Premier had to say.
Mr. Speaker, our commitment to our priorities remains. Of course, we're a government that's moved from one term into another, but while we mark the start of the 7th administration, we will continue to focus on our priorities of building a growing, inclusive, infrastructure-led economy that creates jobs, of building our energy and water security to support and enable this very economy, creating safer communities, and a push for devolving power of SAPs down to provinces, supporting law enforcement resources to build a safer province, further improving the province's education and healthcare systems.
Premier Alan Winde also notes that with the work that has been done in the previous 6th administration, that more work needs to be done. He says the province is one of the fastest growing, receiving about over 150,000 people annually, and this is where he says national government needs to step in, as he indicated earlier that education department and the health department in the previous administration received budget cuts. And let's hear what the Premier had to say when it came to the National Treasury and engaging with them in receiving the budget allocation that they deserve.
Speaker, the census shows that the Western Cape is the fastest growing province in South Africa. We now have the 3rd most populous province in our country. But Speaker, we still get the 5th most money. And that is unacceptable. That's why we want our fair share of the budget. Nothing more, nothing less, our fair share, our fair allocation to this province. We know that we grow by about 150,000 residents every single year, and we must make sure that everyone gets a fair opportunity. We won't just do this for the Western Cape, we will do this alongside Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, because they too are being prejudiced by this process, and we must make sure that they too get their fair share. That is why it's specifically nice to welcome the Deputy Minister here today, so that he knows that we are going to be pushing for that fair share.
Premier Alan Winde also touched on the fact that as much as there were budget cuts in the previous administration, they have already started consulting and engaging with the National Department of Treasury, and went as far as saying that with the Government of National Unity, there seems to be a different kind of atmosphere, that everything seems to be running smoothly. There's better communication and also engaging when it comes to the various spheres of government, or engaging the various spheres of government. And as much as, we heard the Premier's address today, many of the opposition parties said he actually missed the note in actually going into the heart of the issues that are plaguing the Western Cape, such as crime, including the housing development and infrastructure development. As you also know, Michelle, that recently the Western Cape has been battered with gale force winds, including the heavy downpours, and And we heard the Premier indicating there that they will be planning ahead to mitigate climate change and also the impact of climate change rather, and engaging with other coastal towns to see how best they can move forward in ensuring that residents are not as adversely impacted by climate change and the heavy downpours that we've been seeing.
Yeah, we're seeing discussions around various provinces trying to recover from the effects of climate change. We've just been talking about the KwaZulu-Natal province and its continued recovery from the 2022 floods as well, Nasiphi. Insofar as the issue of crime in the Western Cape is concerned, the issue of drugs, gun violence and gangsterism in particular areas of the Western Cape, which becomes a concern for the province only at particular times of the year, perhaps when there's a flare-up of gun violence or gangsterism, or perhaps when a number of people are killed in one particular incident. But is there enough of a concerted effort, and is it on the Western Cape's list of top 5 priorities, I would say, insofar as the Premier's SOPA is concerned?
The Premier touched on the devolution of powers, which is a term that we've heard from the provincial government for a number of years now, calling on National to devolve powers to a provincial and local level. We do know that in the recent weeks, in the recent days alone, the Premier of the Western Cape, Alan Winde, together with the Mayor of the city of Cape Town and other role players within the safety and security departments, have met with the Minister of Police to engage so far as coming up with a tailor-made safety plan for the Western Cape. About a week ago, over 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Police had indicated that the previous safety plan clearly has not worked, and now they're looking at having tailor-made safety plans for each and every province, especially for the community, or rather the province of the Western Cape, where we've seen recently the proliferation of not only drugs and illegal ammunition and firearms, but also the flare-ups that we've seen in various communities. So they are looking into issues like that. We do know that there are talks not only between the various spheres of government, but together with the Provincial Commissioner of Police in the Western Cape.
Nasiphi Same, thanks very much indeed.